Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Donnell, and I'm the Director of Communications here at the Maryland Office of the Attorney General. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. A couple housekeeping issues. In terms of your speakers, we will have the Attorney General of Maryland, Anthony G. Brown, common spelling on Anthony, common spelling on Brown. And then we will also have the Chief of our Independent Investigations Division, the IID. Her name is Allison Green. That's Allison with two L's, Green with no E on the end, common spelling on both. We are in the very beginning of a case that we are prosecuting, which unfortunately translates to the fact that we are going to have to be very careful and limited in the statements that we make today and the information that we share publicly. So at this point, unfortunately, we're going to be unable to take questions, but the Attorney General felt it was very important to come before Marylanders today and tell them about this development. So without further ado, your Attorney General, Anthony Brown.
Good afternoon. I'm Attorney General Anthony Brown, and I want to start by thanking the men and women in uniform who raise their right hand and take the oath to protect and serve with integrity. Those law enforcement officers in the Anne Arundel County Police Department, in the Maryland State Police, and the roughly 16,000 certified law enforcement officers across the state of Maryland. It's because of your commitment and your sacrifice that Marylanders can rest their heads at night knowing that you are working hard to keep them and their families safe. Today's announcement is part of my responsibility to protect and serve the people of Maryland, a responsibility given to me under the law by the governor and the General Assembly. It is a solemn responsibility of the law to uphold and hold all Marylanders accountable regardless of their career. Today, our office's Independent Investigation Division, the IID, is announcing indictments of two officers of the Anne Arundel County Police Department for misconduct in office for their actions in connection with a fatal collision in December of 2023. In 2021, the General Assembly passed a law that granted the Office of the Attorney General the authority to investigate all police-involved deaths of civilians. 2 years later, that authority was expanded to prosecute all cases involving police-involved deaths if it is determined, and only if it is determined, that there is sufficient evidence to support criminal charges. As the General Assembly was debating the expanded authority bill in Annapolis, one state lawmaker said, "Don't let anyone tell you that accountability is mutually exclusive of public safety. In fact, we all know that they're codependent." Holding people accountable for their behavior keeps Marylanders safe, and that is my greatest priority as your Attorney General. Since the General Assembly and Governor granted our office this authority, IID has established protocols that ensure we investigate these cases fairly, impartially, and thoroughly. Over the past 3 years, the IID investigated 61 cases. That includes 30 police-involved shootings, 23 fatal vehicle accidents, 7 in-custody deaths, and 1 death involving use of force that did not include the discharge of a firearm. Each of those investigations involved the loss of life, someone's parent, child, or friend. In this case, it was the Gardner family who suffered the greatest of losses, and my thoughts remain with them. The IID has completed 23 investigations under the expanded authority since October of last year. This is the first time that IID has charged any officer for wrongdoing. On December 7th, 2023, 2 officers with the Anne Arundel County Police Department were involved in an unauthorized high-speed pursuit over several miles that ended in the death of a passenger in the car being chased. The next day, IID initiated the investigation. We learned that after the crash, these Anne Arundel County police officers misled their superiors about their participation in the pursuit. They didn't tell anyone that they were pursuing the vehicle at excessive speeds when the vehicle crashed into a utility pole. These officers failed to tell the truth that they chased the car for more than 3 miles at speeds in excess of 100 miles per hour, including over a 2-lane drawbridge with a speed limit posted on that bridge at 35 miles per hour. They failed to tell the truth that they failed to turn on the lights or sirens during the 4-minute pursuit. They failed to seek or obtain authorization for the pursuit. And they failed to tell the truth that they were still chasing the vehicle when it crashed into a utility pole. Had they revealed the truth about their actions, they would have been removed from the scene and placed on administrative duty pending an investigation. Because of the officers' material misrepresentations and omissions on December 7, 2023, prosecution for misconduct in office is appropriate and necessary. The honesty and integrity of police officers is integral to the critical work of law enforcement, both in keeping Marylanders safe and ensuring the fair and impartial administration of justice. Let me be clear. This indictment, which was handed down on Friday, is not about what happened as a result of the high-speed pursuit. And this indictment is certainly in no way a reflection of the honorable and courageous work that is performed every day across Maryland by sworn officers and police departments. The Office of the Attorney General values and respects each and every officer in Maryland. I recognize that their work is not easy, it can be dangerous, and it is often thankless. As the Attorney General, I do take IID's responsibility seriously. It is our duty to investigate and follow the facts wherever they lead, and to seek justice on behalf of all Marylanders. I want to acknowledge the professionalism, responsiveness, and cooperation of the Anne Arundel County Police Department, including the crash investigators within the traffic safety section, and I thank the Maryland State Police Crash Team for their assistance and involvement in this investigation. I want to thank Allison Green, IID's chief, for her leadership and the countless hours that her team has spent to complete a fair and thorough investigation. And with that, I'm going to ask Allison to provide you more of the facts of the case.
Thank you, Attorney General Brown, and good afternoon, everyone. Before I get into the facts of the case, I want to emphasize that the defendants are presumed innocent unless and until the state proves their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in court. An indictment is not a finding of guilt, but merely an accusation. These indictments are a culmination of an extensive 10-month-long investigation. After reviewing the evidence, a grand jury of Anne Arundel County residents indicted 2 Anne Arundel County police officers. Corporal Kieran Schnell and Officer Eddie Vasquez of the Anne Arundel County Police Department have each been charged with misconduct in office. The crime of misconduct in office is defined as corrupt behavior by a public officer in exercising the duties of his office or while acting under the color of his office. To prove misconduct in office beyond a reasonable doubt, a prosecutor must show that the defendant was a public officer who corruptly acted in their official capacity or took advantage of their public office. The conduct must be a willful abuse of authority and not merely an error in judgment. On or about December 7, 2023, Officer Vasquez and Corporal Schnell began pursuing a white Infiniti sedan on Fort Smallwood Road in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Both the marked cruisers and the Infiniti traveled in excess of 100 miles per hour. Unfortunately, the pursuit ended when the Infiniti's driver lost control of the vehicle, crashed into a utility pole at the intersection of Fort Smallwood Road and Bar Harbor Road, at approximately 12:06 a.m. Mr. Damian Gardner was the front seat passenger in the Infiniti, and he died on scene as a result of the injuries sustained in the crash. The driver of the Infiniti was transported to an area hospital and was subsequently released after his treatment. At times during the pursuit, as the Attorney General said, which was several miles long, both officers, Officer Vasquez and Corporal Schnell's vehicle traveled at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour, where the posted speed limit was 35 miles per hour. The officers never activated their emergency equipment. The officers did not make a notification that they were engaged in a pursuit. The officers did not obtain authorization to engage in a pursuit. Immediately following the crash, both officers made factual misrepresentations and material omissions about the circumstances of the crash to responding officers. They concealed the occurrence of a pursuit. The officers thereafter continued to make factual misrepresentations and material omissions related to the crash involving the vehicle pursuit. As a result of the officers' representations, the crash was investigated by the Anne Arundel County Police Department Traffic Safety Section. Their crash investigators were responsible for the retrieval of evidence. And on December 8th, 2023, an Anne Arundel County Police Department officer made a notification that their own officers may have been involved in a pursuit on December 7th, 2023, referring to that crash involving the white Infiniti, Corporal Schnell, and Officer Vasquez. The Anne Arundel County Police Department notified the Maryland State Police, who then contacted the Independent Investigations Division, also referred to as the IID. After reviewing the available evidence, the Independent Investigations Division assumed the investigation into Officer Vasquez's and Corporal Schnell's actions. We confirmed that it was a fatal, police-involved vehicle pursuit. Officer Vasquez has been employed by the Anne Arundel County Police Department since September 2020, and Corporal Kieran Schnell has been employed by the department since November 2019. Officer Vasquez has been indicted on 1 count of misconduct in office. Corporal Schnell has been indicted on 2 counts of misconduct in office. The charges are currently pending before the Circuit Court for Anne Arundel County. As the Attorney General emphasized, these investigations would not have been possible without the collaboration and partnership between the Attorney General's office and our law enforcement partners. Also, as the Attorney General emphasized, this is not a judgment against the police department or every law enforcement officer in the state of Maryland. It's not a judgment about the pursuit. This is not a judgment about the lawfulness of the pursuit or the police department's policies. Rather, these charges, in this case, are based upon specific facts involving untruthfulness. Based on our investigation, prosecution is appropriate and necessary. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you all so much for joining us for this announcement. If there's anything I can help with, I'm happy to speak with you afterwards. Thank you again.